Well, guys, you know, we got Colt here. I thought I would introduce you. If you guys haven't met Colt, this is Colt. Like Colt 45. Anyways, this is, you guys all know Daisy. So, some of these farmers, this is a very good customer of mine. This guy owns a huge strawberry nursery, multi-million-dollar nursery, and you're going, well, this water truck is a real peach, man. Look at the front end on it here. It's not licensed or anything, and they just keep the guys out in the field. They just water the field roads with it, which I guess it's an old Western store. What year is this poor old girl, man? What year is this thing? Where would you find that on this old gal? I don't know what year it is. She's an old one though. Man, been around a long time. She's got an old big cam 400 Cummins in it. Looks like a big cam 3. But anyway, clutch is out on this old girl. I was giving him a hard time about it. I went over there and looked at it the other day, and I said, well, that old girl's seen better days, Mike. And he goes, well, I'm not buying a nice water truck for all these guys. You know, they don't even have a license, and you stick them in it, and he says, you know, they'll tear the clutches out of them and run into stuff and back over power poles. He says, I was giving him a hard time. I said, well, maybe if you pay him more minimum wage, you might be able to get a good truck driver in there. And he was giving me a hard time about it. Anyway, he says it works great for what they're doing, watering the roads out to the fields and stuff. And if they fumigate, they water the tarp down to keep the wind from getting underneath the tarp. It puts a little weight on that tarp and keeps that tarp from rolling. If you're fumigating, you'll see a big plastic. The whole field will be plastic. That keeps the gas in the ground. And if that wind gets under there, I mean, it'll be, you could stick a house. I've seen those bubbles in the field. You could put a house underneath them. Well, when that bubble breaks, that tarp, that plastic goes everywhere, and I've seen it get around power lines and pull power poles down. I mean, it's pretty bad. So anyways, me and my wife finally got it in the door. Batteries were just deader than a doornail on it, and sat there and tried to jump one. Then it had bad connections. We finally got it started, and then it didn't have enough power in the batteries to start it in gear to get it in here. So we grabbed the service truck, and the wife, she steered and braked the old water truck, and then I drug her to the door as close as I could get there, and I said, just leave it running, honey. And she says, what are you going to do? I says, I'm going to slam it in low gear and drive it in the door. And that's what I did. I just went bang and slammed it in gear and drove it on in, and I got my piece of steel plate here underneath the truck, and I got her kind of centered over that to where I can get my jack, because this wonderful rough asphalt floor is kind of horrible for rolling the jack around on it. But so we're going to pull the transmission out of it, and I'm going to say something. This YouTube thing's been a pretty good deal for me in a couple different ways. For one thing is, the guy does make a little bit of money once he gets some subscriber count up there. I mean, you're not getting rich off of it or anything, but it helps. You know, every little bit helps, especially in this day and age where everything costs so much damn money to do anything. And then the second thing, I remember guys mentioning on, I think I did a clutch job on video before, and for years I've always stuck 5/8 guide studs in the flywheel and stacked my my clutch disc up there against the flywheel, and then my intermediate plate, and then the second clutch disc that goes up against the pressure plate, and then you stuck your pressure plate on, and you put your clutch spine tool in there and get it all lined up. And well, I'm going to tell you what, I don't ever do that anymore. I actually read the comments, and then I looked it up, and I never knew guys did that. And I'll tell you what, I've done quite a few clutches that way now. But what I do, I pull them out regularly like you regularly do a clutch, but putting them back in, I'm telling you what, that was the best advice I've ever gotten. I stack the whole clutch up on the input shaft and the bell housing. I get my jack adjusted, the angle on the tilt to where she don't go nose diving on me, and then oh my gosh, it's so nice doing them that way. I mean, I'll never do them the other way again, ever. I mean, the pilot, the input shaft just goes right in. That's all you're lining up is the pilot on the flywheel. That's all you got to line up, and they just pop right in. You bolt the bell housing up, and then you just turn your clutch around, or you just turn your engine to line up the first hole. I just make sure I put the pressure plate. I get one bolt hole at the bottom through the inspection plate, and then I can get an impact in there with the. And I don't tighten them all up at once. I just snug it up, and then I go to the next hole. That way I make sure I get all the bolts and the pressure plate to the flywheel all around, and then I do another revolution, and then I cinch them all down with the impact. And it's just so much easier than trying to shove that transmission in there and trying to wiggle the yoke and trying to spline it up. What a pain in the butt. We did them for years like that, and so glad that I did it this way. We'll do it this way too, and you'll see you're going to get to see what an old junker water truck, what a clutch looks like when they don't ever grease the throwout bearing. It's just pretty much gone. But another thing I want to mention, and I'm not going to mention a name. Some people don't like their names mentioned on YouTube, but I met a really nice lady, and this is how small of a world this is. A buddy of mine called me, and I was friends with his son for years. And those boys had log trucks. Him and his dad had log trucks for eons, and anyway, they both sold out their log trucks. They didn't want to play the California emissions game and all that crap anymore. And so the dad, he's working over here for one of the huge ranches. He's the mechanic and does everything over there for them. And then the son, he works down there for Caltrans now in the road department. Anyhow, his dad calls me, and he says, "Hey, I didn't know you were a YouTube star." And I said, "Huh?" And he goes, "Well, I got his sister lives up in Missoula, Montana, outside of Missoula, Montana, and her husband watched the YouTube channel, and she asked him, her brother that lives down here, 'Do you know this guy? Do you know Warren?' 'Oh yeah, I know Warren.' And he didn't know anything about the YouTube thing. Well, anyways, was it Sunday night? Sunday night I went over there and had dinner with them and met her. Her husband had to stay up in Montana. He was busy. And I talked to him on the phone, and just really, really, really good people, really nice people. We talked till about 1 o'clock in the morning, just BSing about everything, and it was really good talking to them. There's a lot of good folks out here in the country still. There's a lot of bad ones too, like we talked about, but there's a whole lot of good ones too. So anyways, I just want to give them a shout out, and I really appreciate the support. So anyways, I guess I better get going on this. And Colt, we got to get the Driveline out of it and get the transmission out of it, buddy. Well, let's see what kind of farmer special we got going on here. So we obviously got our whole weed burner exhaust system tied together with a chain that's holding the whole damn thing up here. That's one thing that's completely obvious. So that's probably gonna have to come out of the way. That's a nice one. She is a jewel. Okay, and the output shaft seal. Probably ought to check the oil in the transmission, make sure it's got some in it. And a crossover line there on the valve. The gate valves are on the bottom of the fuel tank for the crossover line is dripping. Well, it's got gate valves on it, so I should be able to, if the valves seat up anymore, should be able to close that gate valve there and pull the crossover line loose. Yeah, theoretically. You really gotta watch it on some of these old gals. You'll get to pull a line or something like that loose, and the damn thing won't seat up, and you'll pull the line off, and all the fuel will never stop draining out of it. Okay, I don't even, a little bracket, some kind of support there that's for that crossover line, and it's been gone since the Last Supper, since Moses was around, or maybe even Noah in the Ark times or something like that. Okay. I'm not gonna be able to get this out of here. Can I just pull this chain loose? I just got a bolt running through it there. Well, let's see if this crossover line will
it. And we'll see how big of a mess it makes when we pull the hose off. There's there one over here too. Cool. I've seen some of them where they just put one on. Old Colt, he's interested in everything. He's a pup. How are we going to get this weed burner exhaust out of our way? This rear axle wheel seal's out, it's all wet. Another one of those that they'll run it till the bearings go out on it. That is a long-winded valve. Well, it looks like we could pull this clamp loose here, this 5-inch clamp here, and get a bracket here holding it on. So, oh, this old girl. They don't make them like this anymore. I mean, this old girl has obviously been beat for a lot of years, and she just keeps on going. Let's see what we got here. So this end here didn't have no swivel. This end here must be the swivel end. Yeah, this end's got the swivel on it. 1-inch end wrench there. Pop that loose. 7/16, take that bracket off. How do you get this pile of junk here off? 9/16 maybe, and take it loose up there, and then just take the hose and flop it over to that side, and hopefully the damn valves seat up. Can you imagine? A little bit of background on what I'm talking about. Me and the lady that I met here recently, there that was from Montana, we got to talking about how our present day situation and a lot of the politics, and we were talking about how oversensitive everybody everyone is so sensitive about everything anymore. It's just unbelievable. I told her, I says, can you imagine if there was a producer like Mel Brooks that was still around and made a movie like Blazing Saddles now? Oh my God, there would be an apocalyptic meltdown of mega proportions if anything like that ever happened. Everybody'd be screaming racism, and the world was going to end, and the sky was going to fall, and everyone's oppressed, and it's unbelievable anymore what you see going on. I like how you get multi-million-dollar sports figures telling everybody about how oppressed they are. These people make more money sitting on the bench than most of us have made in one season than most of us make in a lifetime. You know, they've got it so rough though, just terrible. Terrible. It's almost gotten to where it's just laughable. It's comical. It really is. I mean, these people are pretty pathetic. They really are. Let's look at this. Typical water truck. It's going to be rusted together on it. I'll give you a good view of the throw-up bearing. Back up in there. Yeah, it's completely... There's the clutch return spring. It's bound up in the... there's another return spring. Can you see those? There's a return spring there. There's another return spring. They're not in the clutch anymore in the pressure plate. They're all gone. So yeah, it's pretty hammered. See, they called me originally their mechanic, he's out. You know, he had a chain binder get him, and so they called me originally saying it was stuck in reverse, and went out there and I said, well, the reason it's stuck in reverse is because there's no clutch left in it. That would be why it would be stuck in reverse. I guess we'll see how much fuel we lose when we pull this off, but I gotta get this one bracket loose over here. Well, guys, let me get this, well, maybe I'll just stick the camera right up over here, maybe. Let's see if we can manage that. Let's pull this whole thing down out of here. This one ain't gonna be so much fun because the motor mounts are actually on the bell housing with the transmission, which that kind of sucks, but now here's where we find out and see if the gate valve there on the crossover line is going to hold. Maybe not puke fluid all over me in the floor here. There's really going to be some fluid in the line. I should be nice and filthy after this one. Yeah, there's going to be some fluid in that line. Well, let me get a bucket and stick under it and try to catch what I can. Take this drive line out. These bolts here are loose. People don't like the politics, but I'm telling you, with what we got going on right now in the country, you better start paying attention to what's going on, because if you don't think it affects you. I had a guy tell me, he goes, I don't watch that because it don't affect me. Okay. It don't affect you, huh? That has to be one of the more idiotic statements I've ever heard. I was watching an interview with, you know, they're all flipping out about Ruth Ginsburg dying, and they're having a total, absolute meltdown over that right now. On this solid wiring that like that doesn't seem to be the right thing to do. And why would you care how fast this old piece of shit goes anyway? Who cares? I mean, whatever. I don't think I'd be very concerned about it. That's just me. Let's see here. Where we need to bar out here. Driving me crazy, wire. It's driving me crazy. Okay. Going into right here. This is where one of those Tiger Tool U-joint presses would be really nice to have, right here. And they won't come loose. So here's where we get the torch out, heat the yoke up so we can get it out of there. Might be able to take the air hammer. One of these days I'll get one of those. By the time I get worn out and I gotta retire because I'm crippled, I'll have all the things I need to have. Until then, we'll just keep doing it the only way we can. We'll force it out of there. Okay. If this don't work, then we get heat on it. This doesn't appear to be working either. Okay, that one's going to take heat. It's not coming loose. Come on, be nice to me now. Put the pain in the box. Come on. All right. Okay. Wonderful Driveline is out of it. Let's drag the Driveline over there, maybe out of the way. And then now we can get to the top of the transmission and I'll beat that one cap the rest of the way out of there with the air hammer. Rusted in there like crazy. The only reason the one cap came out is because the bolts were loose and it had worked itself loose from the yoke over time. Most of the time on them caps, if you anti-seize them, when you put them back in and clean them out real good, they'll come out the next time. A lot of guys don't ever anti-seize those caps. Some things I believe in anti-seize on, and other things that are really tight fit, pressed together type stuff, I think you're wasting your time anti-seizing some things because they go together so tight it just pushes all the anti-seize right off. So that's just my gut, my feeling on some of that. But anyhow, I don't know if you can see anything. I guess we'll find out when I edit this if this is going to be worth producing. But underneath this truck here and pulling the spaghetti lines off, the
slave valve. We'll probably have to change the name of that. The slave valve and the master cylinder, things like that, will probably become politically incorrect now. Somebody will be offended somewhere, I'm sure. That the people that perpetually are offended these days, they make it a living to be offended. Instead of actually going out and doing something that actually makes a difference in the world, they just perpetually go around being offended and have made a career out of it, seems like. Okay, so I got them all unhooked. Alright, hopefully I can remember where they go. They're not color-coded, of course. Alright, so boy, she is an old gal, I'll tell you that. She's an old timer. It's supposed to be like an RTO 9915 or something like that. Good grief. I gotta go get me. I've got a plate that I can bolt to the top of this. Once I get I'll pull the shift tower up and tie it to the steering wheel to hold it up. And then I'll have to put that plate over the top of it to keep the dirt out of the transmission. I haven't rebuilt a Eaton transmission in a long time. I'd like to make a video on doing one of those. I used to rebuild a lot of those Eaton transmissions. I've done tons and tons of RTO 9513s, 16 913s. I've done some 18 speeds. I've done 9 speeds. I've never done one of those newer style piece of junk Eaton 6-speed transmissions. But most of them are junk. Those 6 speeds like they put like in the smaller service trucks and stuff like that. I've never done one of those. So how is this Heim joint? Jeez. How is this Heim joint held on here? Interesting. They've got a bunch of lock washers. Got a bunch of lock washers stacked in between the arm and there. That is an interesting setup. Really is. Or am I going to be better off to try to get the shift arm off the cross shaft? See, and this is the style of bell housing to where the motor mounts are on the transmission. So we're going to have to block up the engine and then pull these. Once we get the bell housing bolts loose, we'll have to pull the motor mount bolts and scoot it back over the top of the mount on the frame and get it to clear it and then let it down. So, which kind of sucks. Got a customer show up that the scales actually let him go, which is amazing. But, broke a fitting on the airbags on the trailer. And he found somebody to change the fitting down there, but when it did it, the suspension was bottomed out on the bag, so it broke the plate where the airbag mounts to the frame and broke it all loose. So, and on them older trailers how rusted up they can be and how hard they can be to weld on. So anyhow, we ended up having to put a jack under the frame and get the weight off and get the bag shifted back over where it was, and it was really rusty and you couldn't get in there with a grinder, and he loaded and he had to leave, and I says, well, we'll weld her up with some farmer rod, what I call farmer rod, 6011. 6011 is pretty good. Pretty good. Once we get to where we're happy with that, then we'll hit her with the old 7018, make her look a little better.
Alright, so here we go. Okay. Sorry about dropping the mic there on the plate, but one thing I don't like about this whole setup, there's nowhere to mount the mic. You gotta kind of carry it. I don't know, maybe there's some accessory. That's the thing, there's so many. Why don't they sell this stuff in a kit or something? That way you get everything you need on it. Now we gotta see if that clutch fork, you have to turn that. Is it gonna turn now? Well, I guess we'll see when we start pulling it back, but I don't really want to. I don't know. We'll see. Get a bar and start seeing if we can get her spread. Wow. He's stuck under pretty good. I got all the bolts out, I'm pretty certain I do. Didn't miss one up there somewhere, did I? Man, does it look like that bell housing's rubbing on that mount right there? It is, isn't it? Okay. What are we gonna do about that? Yeah, the bell housing's touching the actual mount that mounts to the frame. Shit, we're never gonna come past that. If it's rubbing on there like that. What the hell are we gonna do now? Now we gotta take these loose? This has turned out to be a real pain in the ass. Alright. Whew. What a fight. I don't know how many clutches I've done in my life, but this is definitely one of the worst ones. This little son of a gun here. The way they got them mounts made and the bell housing on the transmission just right up against them. I mean, just right up against them. I think what I'm going to do is pull the actual mounts. Now I'm up against this cross member back here with the regulator. I don't know if I can go down if the input shaft is still sticking in the clutch. Okay, we're cleared it. So we can let down on that now. Whoa. It's a little bit iffy. Yeah, the mount's dragging on the frame now over here. That's a pain in the butt when they put the mounts back on the bell housing for the engine. That sucks. It really does. They might have to come clear off of there. Okay. I might be able to clear it. We'll see how bad the input shaft is on it. Maybe we'll just leave it up in the air, and if the input shaft is okay, then I gotta get a jack stand and put underneath that pan. I'm thinking it's probably gonna need an input shaft kit in it. I feel grooves in the spines. And if you got grooves in them spines, that'll really, really get you. Because then a clutch disc will stick on the spline. But here's another spring jammed up in there. Oh, the clutch. Wow. Definitely a good one here. The jack and block are going anywhere, but just for safety's sake. Just for safety's sake, we'll stick that in there. Alright. Try to just
get it out of here and just lay it on my chest for now. But when I go back to get, I'm gonna have to get these mounts off this bell housing and let the transmission down the rest of the way, because I'm gonna have to put an input shaft kit in it. That throw-up bearing, they let it go so long that the throw-up bearing bushing inside tore the shit out of the input shaft. It was pretty rough on it. Look at this spring. Look how long that thing's been. Golly, how long do you telling me you couldn't hear them springs bouncing around in the bell housing while you're running this thing? And then the springs just beat the piss out of the bell housing inside the engine here on the rear structure. And this has been converted. I'm glad I didn't order a clutch too, because I was going to get a 14-inch clutch for it. And this has been converted over to a 15.5-inch clutch. Knee pad. Ow. Jesus. Gotta get the flywheel out of it and go get it turned. What a freaking mess, huh? Let's get a closer look at that. We gotta get that input shaft out too, the transmission, but I'll show you what I'm talking about here. See how this mounts right up against, well, I can move over a little bit, but I've already tried to pull it out like that and it won't do it. And this one here is way over the frame that far. One of those mounts on that bell housing's got to come off to get the transmission dropped down. I don't know if you can see it, that light's not so great, but see how that bushing tore up that input shaft and it transferred a bunch of metal to it. Clutch brake's completely gone, there's nothing left of it. Let's go drag that clutch out of there. Then I gotta get another impact and pull that flywheel out and go get that flywheel turned. Yes, I'm gonna change that. Most of these Cummins and these older ones had a bowl type flywheel on them with a 14-inch clutch, and somebody's changed this one over to 15.5. Maybe it was like that already. I just don't remember seeing 15.5-inch clutches on these old Cummins like this. Yeah, you got to be careful pulling them out like that. I mean, you can smash your fingers pretty good, so if you don't feel like you can do it, just let it go. Let it hit the ground, it won't hurt it. I mean, the clutch is junk anyway, so there's the one deal. There's all the springs that are going out of the pressure plate. These clutches weigh about 150 pounds. Well, now you can get a better look at that. What that all looks like. There's no throw up. See the bearings in there, and
I don't think I've ever seen one this bad. She's a jewel, isn't she? There's some more bearings and stuff there that they'll throw up bearings, springs, and she's just wonderful. She's lovely. Just a lovely thing. What is this thing anyway? It's an old 9-speed, ain't it? The tag's gone off the transmission. These old farmers and some of the stuff they got. What is this thing? A little round knob on it. Low. Yeah, it's a 9-speed. Yes, it is a 9-speed. Okay. Got a 2-inch input shaft in it. I don't know what to tell them guys up there that it's a old Western Star with a big Cam Cummins in it and an old 9-speed, and I need an input shaft kit. So I don't know if I need to get this one out to match one up or what we're gonna have to do here. Well guys, I don't know if you guys want me to video more on this, or maybe I'll video putting it back together. But when I go back together with this, I don't even want to pull the transmission out from underneath this thing. I'll probably leave it in there, and I'll put the input shaft kit in it right underneath there. And it needs let's look at that a little closer. Let me go around the other side. See if we can get that light pointing in the right direction. Get it in there where you can see. I don't know how bad that clutch fork is worn on there. Usually when them clutch forks get really worn, it's a good idea to change them while you're there. Put some cross shaft bushings in it. But like I say, we got to get this thing down further to where we can do it and drive the cross shaft bushings out and stuff. But there, now you can see what's going on. Alright. What you'll look at when them forks get really worn, see there's a ridge right there. And that ridge will really affect your free play between your throwout bearing and your clutch fork. This one needs a clutch fork in it. It's got a pretty darn good ridge right there on that one. It needs an input shaft. Look how all that metal transferred over to that input shaft. It needs a 2-inch input shaft. And this is an old enough transmission, it's probably got just a roller bearing on it. Clutch brakes junk in it, and it's gone. I've got 5 or 6 clutch brakes in stock here at the shop. I've got a 15.5-inch clutch, brand new one, sitting in a box in there. But I don't want to put that new clutch against a flywheel that might have a little run out on it or something from these guys that don't know how to drive, obviously, running it. Basically what you do, this bearing retainer right here, you pull the clutch fork out of it and pull it out the cross shafts. There's a couple big fat washers here that lock the clutch fork to the shaft, and you'll knock that out of there, and then you can pull your bearing retainer out. And then there's a snap ring. This bearing retainer will slide down the input shaft, and then you can pull the snap ring off and pull your input shaft out. So it ain't too bad. You can do it right underneath the truck. You don't even need to take it, but it need be a lot nicer if we can get it down here where we can work on it a little better. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. It's about 6 o'clock in the evening, about had enough.